All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock on Tuesday, October 25th, and you are watching Advancement Live. I want to thank one of our guests for joining us early. She is on the West Coast at Gonzaga, and so Stephanie, who you'll be meeting in just a little bit, she's tuning in at 10 a.m. her time, so thank you for that, Stephanie, for joining us early. On today's live broadcast, we're talking about demonstrating donor impact, and obviously, we know it's important to give, but how do we illustrate to our students, to our new donors, to our returning donors, just how important it is to make a gift and what is the impact of those gifts? And so I have two awesome guests joining me on this afternoon's episode, one from the Ohio State University and the other from Gonzaga University. And we are going to talk about two very different campaigns, one really student-focused and one really staff and faculty-focused that really show donor impact. And so we'll get right into that in just a little bit. But Advancement Live is part of the Higher Ed Live Network. It offers viewers direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Live broadcasts allow viewers from around the world to share their knowledge, to participate in discussions around some really important topics. Today's live viewing experience is powered by Maestro. It is the premier marketing tech platform for broadcasters, and all episodes of Advancement Live are free. They're accessible in the video archives at higheredlive.com and in podcast form on iTunes. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a marketing and communications firm that works with education institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and a whole lot more. Is it time for a website checkup for your shop? Well, if you're worried that your site isn't memorable or maybe nervous that your institution won't stand out from every other school that's knocking on prospective donors' doors, a website checkup is your first step, and we'll be tweeting out a link shortly so you can learn more. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce today's guests. We first have Tina Tomey, who is Associate Director of Annual Giving Special Campaigns for the Ohio State University. And in addition to Campus Campaign, she does the faculty and staff fundraising, their campus campaign, but also does young alumni philanthropy, parent giving, individual unit campaigns, and also works with some other affinity groups at Ohio State. And in addition, she is a licensed professional counselor. And then coming to us today from Gonzaga University is Stephanie Rockwell. She's Director of Individual Giving at Gonzaga. She works to broaden the base of private gift support from alumni, from parents, from friends, from faculty, you name it, she'll take it, right? And her diverse team raises between $5 and $10 million annually. She has a BA from Whitworth University and went on to get her master's from Gonzaga. So my thanks to both of you ladies for joining us this afternoon, Tina and Stephanie. Hopefully our technology will cooperate with us as we really dive into this episode. And I'm going to talk first to Tina about the Connecting the Dots campaign. We just tweet that out, and I'll share it again for those of you who may have missed it. This was a coworker sent this to me and said, you have to see this video. It's so neat how they did this. And I guess I'll have you describe, Tina, the Cliff Notes version of how Connecting the Dots, which was your campus campaign, your appeal to staff and faculty members and retirees, how did it come to be? And while you talk, I'll tweet.
Okay. Great. We have a slightly different theme every year for the campaign, so a different tagline, always campus campaign. And so we were kind of brainstorming in our office, what are some things, we always hear from donors, we want to know what's happening with our money. And there are so many meetings that we go to where someone said, well, we got to connect the dots between, and like, okay, perfect. We'll go with connecting the dots. And we went to our marketing team, and they put together this great concept of literally having a connect the dot piece. And we said, okay, we want to bring in a donor and a recipient or beneficiary and see what happens, see what kind of dynamics pull together. So we brought these individuals together. They didn't know why the other person was there. So find this donor, they come say, hey, I give through Campus Campaign to this fund, and this is why. And the donor is, oh my gosh, I benefit from that fund. I'm so thankful you're supporting it. And we kind of let it go from there, and the results were amazing. just
So
amazing.
how did you identify, I mean, the fact that you kept it a surprise from folks, I think that was the piece for me that was like, I don't even know these donors that I'm crying watching them. The fact that you had that organic reaction, like it was so natural. How did you do that? Like, how did you identify those folks?
So luckily for me, I happened, well, with Campus Campaign, I'm all over campus. So for, say, the first video, I knew the woman who's in the video with the red hair. She was on my Campus Campaign Council. I knew her story about why she was giving. And I just reached out to the soccer team and said, hey, who got the scholarship?
Okay.
When I asked her to do something, Megan
She
usually
says yes.
She says yes. So it was a variety of the last student that's in the video. I was at a student philanthropy meeting. She was sitting beside me, and I heard her story, and I'm like, I have to go find Nyala for this video. And then the area where she got their scholarship fund, I gave them a list of donors, and I said, do you know any of these people that you think might be good? And like, oh yes, we know who that would be. They sent them the information over, and it just worked. The person with the neck cancer, he was one of our marketing folks, and we knew what a wonderful story he had, and it was just amazing. We didn't have to reshoot everything. It was all first take. We were very, really lucky.
That's great. Luck is a big part of this, but I think identifying the right folks too and knowing that reaction. I'm going to jump over to Stephanie in just a minute, but first, Tina, how did you then spread the video to your intended audience? So how did you share it? You know, it's one thing to create an extraordinary video, but then to share it so that that video does have meets the goal of raising more money for Ohio State. So what was the method of sharing?
So we have a email message that comes out from the president at the beginning of the campaign.
Okay.
So we included that as a link. And then we also provided our ambassadors. I have between 500 and 600 volunteers or ambassadors throughout campus and our medical center. So they were each able to access the video so they could show it at meetings, at events. So a lot of it showed that way. And also I had people email me and say, hey, I watched the video, I cried, I brought the rest of my office in to watch it. So, the number of views that we have showing is probably, thousands of more people actually saw the video.
Awesome. Love it. Well, Stephanie, Tina's audience is obviously the staff, the faculty, retirees from Ohio State. How about yours is a bit different. So you work in a program called Tomorrow Made Possible. What is that program and who is your audience for Tomorrow Made Possible?
Great, yeah, thanks, Kim. So Tomorrow Made Possible is a student philanthropy focused event. So we look to educate our student population on the impact of the donor support to them. And then in that day, they can share their gratitude back to their donors and sort of show a campus celebration of what donors do for them. We let the donors in on it a little bit. We let them know through a postcard and some follow-up communication. But really the day of Tomorrow Made Possible, an all-day event, is to educate students on that big impact that donors have on their education. It started about 9-10 years ago, I want to say, just before I started working at Gonzaga. And the intention was similar to what you hear across the country with a lot of schools, that tuition freedom day. You look at, here we'll have the event on the day that the support runs out, and that's where you start running on donor support. So it started with that idea, but it evolved over time because we just found that, that's not a really positive message. It's also not sharing what we really wanted them to know, which is, hey, you have people who give for you, and we want you to be thankful for that. So it was less about tuition dollars and when it runs out, which is, a little bit of a negative message, and we wanted to go to the positive gratitude and to share that they can say thank you back to their donors and start recognizing what's happening for them.
So is the focus really on students who are receiving scholarships, or is it on, a student benefits because, at SU we have the Shine Student Center. Well, we wouldn't have a student center without the Shine family. So is it really working with your scholarship recipients or just all students to educate them about the impact of gifts?
Right, it's all of the above. It's all students because it's across campus that we're putting the messaging and the marketing out. And we put up the main event materials, the interactive portions are housed in the main student area. So what we do is we provide that for all the students. They all hear about it. They all know the events going on, and then they can stop by and check it out and take a look. For the scholarship recipients in particular, we work with our financial aid office and identify the students who have yet to write thank you notes, because there is a side program working to really bring out those thank you notes to donors already through the financial aid process. But there are students who haven't quite finished them yet, so we invite them to come out, and we have a station for them to write their thank you notes. We also invite all other scholarship recipients directly through email and through communications to stop by as well and write thank you notes voluntarily. So there are a lot of scholarships that there's no requirement to write a thank you note. Right. We educate them on who that scholarship is from, and if they would like to write a thank you note, they can. So we really get all of the student scholarship people involved, but really every student, like you said, the student center wouldn't be there without a donor, and they're all benefiting from that. So we bring up those messages together.
Did you find there was much activity? I saw you had the hashtag Zag Donor Love. I like that. Did you find that students were into that, into posting on social, or did they more so like to do their private handwritten thank you note?
The thing with social is, you have to have those evangelists. So we definitely had the students that would be involved and excited. It was more of a way, again, to show the donors what's going on. So that was our way to show that alumni, parent, friend population what's going on campus. So we sort of used it in a way to educate out to people rather than internally the students didn't have as much activity. On campus, they're wearing t-shirts, they're writing cards, they're playing the games we had set up in the different stations that educated them about how the university works with funding. We had a photo booth, and that hashtag Zag Donor Love was something that came out a couple years ago, and it just resonated. It just made sense. That's what we want to do. So we went a little bit away from that. Tomorrow is made possible, like that. The tuition ran out, your next day is made possible through donors, and it became, let's show some love here, show some of that donor love. So that became the bigger message, and that now is the big message on all our t-shirts and messaging now.
And you had and I'm going to continue asking you questions because it looks like we lost Tina. So it's the Stephanie and Kim show for now. So hopefully we'll get Tina back. But she stood up and then she was gone. So hopefully I'll troubleshoot with her in a little bit. But you had the passport concept for students. What was that? And did you find that kind of got them more engaged in the whole day? Because I think it's constantly a struggle with students that I don't want to think about that now. Like, yes, there's donors, but I'm still paying this much a year, and I still have, this many dollars that I'm going to owe when I graduate. So did the passport get them a little more invested in it?
It definitely did. And the passport, so the idea of the passport is that, again, we have this beautiful, new, amazing student center, or it's called the Hemmingson Center now. And we had different stations set up all over the center that, again, like I said, would have different educational opportunities or gratitude opportunities for the students to participate in. They would if they went to each of those stations, they would get a stamp on their passport. The kicker, how we got them to do it, was we actually offered a lunch with the president. So your name would be entered into a drawing if you filled out your passport. And that was a big key there. So that was fun to have the president's office behind that offering. The president is someone that the students love and want to see and want to be around. And, he's like the local celebrity on campus, of course. So for them, that got them to go around to those stations where we were able to program a lot of that education that we really wanted to happen. And they did it because that's a great prize for them. So that's how we did it.
That's awesome. We did the passport concept too. I'm wondering if one of my colleagues was at a conference with Gonzaga, because we did the passport recently last year. But we did it as it was a prize for your student organization. So we put all the passports in, and then the student organization, the student who won, got to get $500 towards their student organization for filling out the passport. But you would think that that would be a draw, but we really didn't find that, as many students as we thought would be putting their passports in and having them all filled out. So
no, they got really excited about the lunch opportunity. And you know what? The whole center had a lot of excitement around it, so you couldn't pass by the tables without hearing about it or knowing, go check this out. After you grab lunch, like stop by the table next to the entrance or whatnot. So we had a blitz of student representatives out there wearing T-shirts and being excited. And so you really were funneled through it. You really couldn't get away because they have to eat through there, and it became a busy hub for everything.
And tell me, you had said you put up, was it cutouts of alumni around campus? What was that component? Because that was new for this year, and that was something I think, oh, it looks like Tina's coming back to us. But I'll have you answer that question about basically showing the donors.
Right. So part of the Tomorrow Made Possible plan was to have the big cutouts of alumni. So they're practically life size, and they would be stationed all around campus. Again, we're trying to educate all students. So we really thought about where are the buildings that maybe the other of the upperclassmen, or if you're down into your major, you're not necessarily coming through the main eating areas as often, but you will be in a certain building with your classes. We made sure to set up strategically these big cutouts that showed the alum and that they're just like you. Another component was similar to what you do with reunion, showing some yearbook pictures. We took a lot of the pictures out of the yearbooks from each decade and showed those pictures where they're engaging in similar activities and in dorm life and all of that the students today would be experiencing, and connecting that to, hey, these grads from 1970, played these sports, or they engaged in these silly things at their dorm, or just had a great time at Gonzaga, and they're just like you, and they gave X amount over this last lifetime, or this is how many give to make your education now possible. So they were able to see, okay, wow, they're just like me. They're hanging out in their dorm. They're going to class, and there's nothing, they're not just the big name building people. It's this class has given and supported us. So really trying to connect that. It's about you individually have an impact as well, and you have a responsibility as an alum in the future, just like these alums are now doing that for you.
And it's not really a call for financial support that day from the students. It's just showing them that, when you are ready, you will be a future donor like these people, right?
Right, exactly. We don't do any asking of our students during this day. It's all about gratitude. It's about understanding that there is a very important component of philanthropy and giving back that happens at the university, and that is what we want them to know. And that they could see, okay, this is something that happens. This is something I'll do when I am an alum. So we don't ask for them at that point. We understand they're students, and that becomes an area that we really don't want to get into at this point with them. We just really need them to understand how this all works.
Awesome. Well, Tina, welcome back. We were worried about you.
Technical difficulties.
Oh dear. It wouldn't be a show without some technical troubles. Well, anyway, so Stephanie and I just chatted a lot about Tomorrow Made Possible and the focus on the students and showing them, just how impactful these donations are, and how, one day, you too have the opportunity to have this kind of impact on Gonzaga. For connecting the dots, you had the catchy video. Did it start with the video and then you created the other elements, or did you have, like, your email signature was so adorable with the little mascot, how the dots were connected. How did those other elements come to be, and what were some of them, other than the posters that we see right behind your head?
So we did pretty much start with the video. We knew that we wanted them to actually be connecting the dots on something, and so they had to get that shell of a design ready. So we actually had two posters, one with it completely colored in, and the other where they could actually go out, and we provided them with pens so they could actually connect the dots themselves. And so they could do their own poster and color it in, and that sort of thing. So from that, we created campaign buttons. We had a thank you card. Like I said, posters. We had little tech tattoos that they got for thank yous when they made a gift. Did, like I said, postcards. We also do in the campus buses. We create bus signs. So each of our buses, you can put 2 signs in at a time. So we did that, and those got a lot of response. So those are some of the ways, and we have an amazing group of faculty and staff, especially our volunteers. But some of them went out and made their own videos and distributed them. Or they took the graphics that we provided them and they created their own emails and with little connect the dots that had to do with the fund that they wanted to support. So everybody kind of gets into it and uses elements to get that message out.
Awesome. So your results, I mean, they really speak for themselves. The numbers that I saw, 11,700 participants, 2,725 funds benefited, and 4.6 million given. Yeah. I mean, that's extraordinary. How does that stack up to past years now that you had this new concept?
That stacked up very well.
Yeah.
Participation, it varies from year to year, but we generally have lately around 40% participation from faculty and staff. So that roughly 12,000 participation mark is pretty steady. The dollar amount is a little higher than the previous year. I think what we found is that when we get to the 50% mark, moving it a step farther, getting more people to participate, it takes that extra effort, like the video that we had last year. So we did have 1,334 new donors. So while there were some faculty and staff who left, we did have 1,300 new donors this year.
Do you find that most of those donors are giving to their own departments and units, or are they really going across the board? Like, is it, because I know, a lot of campaigns can be so successful when it's, this school versus that school within your university. Mm-hmm. Is it really department unit focused?
The units, usually they'll send out an email, or the ambassadors will send out an email and say, these are some suggested funds, including these are the priorities of the college. But we find that folks give everywhere, not necessarily to their unit. And I think some of our faculty and staff kind of prefer to give elsewhere. So we have a lot of folks who give to our medical center funds. I believe like professors, they often give to their own departments, that sort of thing, but they give everywhere, not necessarily where they work at. Especially, we also include our administration and planning office and our business office. So they don't necessarily have very many funds to choose from. So they look across the university.
And Stephanie, with Tomorrow Made Possible, is it really run through your office? Do a lot of the schools and colleges get really? Is it a whole day thing? Like, could you walk out on campus and not know this was going on, or is it a whole big day?
It's definitely an entire day effort where we contact our schools and colleges. We contact a lot of the student organizations. Again, we're looking at that student focus. So we look at all of our leadership groups, the Student Body Association, the biggest groups on campus for student involvement, our student development area, which would be like student life in some other schools. So we get them all on board. They're all wearing our t-shirts. They're all out there. We are able to get a few faculty to make announcements or talk about it in class. So we give them some pointers. Like I said, I don't know the exact adoption on that, but we do provide it so that we hope everyone has that knowledge base. You walk out on campus. Our campus is not as large as obviously the Ohio University. So we're able to really, make the most of how we're set up. So you walk out, you see iconic buildings on campus with messaging, and you see students out there having fun. So you'd have to be on the really outskirts to not know it. You would have seen an email. You would have been talked to at your most recent club or organization event to be involved. So I think it's well known. Again, you talk to the students later and you say, hey, did you remember Tomorrow Made Possible? They may or might not remember the name, but they remember, that day with this or that, So it gets out there and the students are remembering, but us marketing people, we think everyone remembers our slogans, but sometimes it doesn't quite work like that. And that's okay. We're getting that education out there.
So this is a day, it's typically in April for you, right? How do you see it evolving as you look towards 2017?
Yeah, as we look for 2017, I think Tina has some great potential there with involving, with her idea of really getting the faculty and the donors on campus to understand where their giving goes and how it affects the students and how it affects the campus. So that is where we want to take it, is to incorporate a faculty and staff giving component where we're not asking students to give, they're showing the gratitude, and we're asking faculty and staff to lead into it, showing their support, and then the students can really celebrate on campus the people already on campus giving for them. So we're going to tie that in. I think too that we have a lot more opportunity to bring local donors to campus. We haven't done a lot with maybe a sit-down lunch, nothing fancy, but maybe get those alums around the area into the big student center, have a lunch with a student and see the impact of their gifts real time. And then I think that leads just a huge impression on a student to meet someone face to face. So that's where I want to take it in the future, really start going beyond the write a note, learn some facts and figures about what happens at the university, and really say, wow, put a face to that scholarship. Again, a lot of these people are just like them. They're not the multi-million whatever. Those people that's a small group of people, but it takes the thousands every year to give back who are working jobs just like their parents, just like they will someday. That they may not see themselves in that, but we want them to see themselves that you can do this too. And the people giving to your scholarship, they're writing those $200 checks every year for you, and that's something you can do too.
Awesome. And Tina, how about with something as successful as Connecting the Dots was? Are you starting already to think about what next year's campaign will look like, or how do you go forward from something like that? Or I shouldn't say how do you move forward. Obviously, you will move forward, but how do you top a campaign that was as well received as Connecting the Dots was?
Crossing our fingers.
Okay.
We are actually in the process of scheduling our video now. So once again, the title will change a little bit probably, but we're going to continue to connect those dots between our donors and the beneficiaries. It makes such a difference for people to see that it's a real life person they're impacting, and that we focus a lot on participation, so that a $2 per pay gift or a $5 gift is just as important, as Stephanie said, to those $10,000, $50,000 gifts. It's just as important. You're still making an impact, and it's collectively what we can do. I would like to see us be able to take some of the video participants out to some different events so people can actually meet them, because they were so moved by what happened. They continue to want to know, what happened, to this, what happened to these people, what are they doing? So kind of taking it a step forward. I can't tell you too much about the next video because, we still want it to be a surprise.
It's a surprise. It's secrets. We will not reveal them on Advancement Live today, but we will wait and see. I think there is a lot to be said for that, for going more in depth with the stories that that was just little snippets in the video, but to be able to really expound on their stories and learn more about them. Obviously, people had a connection to them just from seeing them for a couple minutes, or a couple seconds. So that could be, certainly an effort, moving forward. Tina, you do a lot with young alumni philanthropy as well, right? Is that another part of your job?
It is. We are working on that. We're pretty new at pinpointing that population and working out how we're going to influence them in their giving and their participation. We have a student philanthropy group that is evolving, and we are working more and more with them as far as their messaging goes. To Stephanie's point, we have a Thank a Donor Day that we've done for a couple of years, and we've engaged the students in writing thank you notes to our alumni donors. So that's been great. They've been really involved in that, and try to be involved in Student Philanthropy Week as well. So as students come out, how do we message to them? We used to do a class gift, and we are not doing that any longer. We stopped doing that actually just last year, and instead of doing the class gift, because I hate that for their first experience with our alumni association to be, hey, you gonna make a gift? If they haven't been solicited before that. So rather than asking them for a gift right out of the gate, we do care calls. So the summer or within 60 to 90 days after graduation, we call and say, how are you doing? What have you been doing since you got out of school? Have you settled into a job yet? Did you know that these events are going to be happening? Oh, you're in Dallas. The Dallas Alumni Society is having an event such and such. You might want to, reach out to them and see if you can, continue to be an engaged Buckeye. So we start out with that.
Where the phone numbers, are they self-providing those to you, or these are numbers you, because we have this perpetual issue with contacting alumni, even new alumni, via email. So phone numbers, I mean, that's, to get a phone call, it's a, whoa, especially as a 22-year-old, nobody makes phone calls. So what is that process like? Is it they provide their numbers and then your staff divides up? Are you calling every graduating senior? How does that work?
We have a phone center the call center that we use for our usual fundraising. They actually have a segment that they, pull students in and do specifically for these care calls. When everybody graduates, they're asked to, fill out their application for graduation. They have to put their phone numbers, emails, and that information comes over to us. Emails, we've tried those before, and they haven't been quite as effective. It's getting hard these days to know who's opening an email or just clicking that button to delete. So we try the phone numbers, a lot of cell numbers. Those change more frequently these days.
Right.
So it's a kind of a hit and miss, and oftentimes we end up talking to their parents instead of them. So it's a hit and miss, and we all the way through their alumni career try to do those NCOA add-ons to see what the correct addresses are for folks. So
right, very good. Stephanie, how about on Gonzaga's end? Do you do much on the the students once they've recognized this? This is really important. These donors are just like me. What's the next step then from Tomorrow Made Possible? Like, where does it go from there?
As Tina said, we do have a student philanthropy week, where we'll have some additional programming. They also, the seniors, when they're graduating, we put them through sort of an educational component when they're working on their graduation sign-ups and all of those final surveys. We interject in there and provide some updates and some opportunities for them to pledge for the future. As a future donor, we ask them, hey, would you consider doing this within the next 5 years? So we're trying to get them to have affirmative responses to these types of questions, so that, there's data out there and studies, but if you sort of mentally committed to something, when we're hoping on this in a few years, that they might be a little bit more inclined to support. With our most recent alums, they do get the calls, and we really express the participation with them and the resources that they have available to them through our career centers and through the alumni association and through the alumni chapters. So again, like Tina is saying, really not hit them hard with the 3 ask, 4 ask structure. We say, how's it going? I'm going to be an alum soon, right? Mm-hmm. The students are calling. So what are some tips and how are you doing? What can we, is there anything we can share with you today that will help you? And then we do ask them for participation. The telefund or phone-a-thon person in me, cringes at the average gift sometimes, but it's great getting them to do maybe their class year when that first gift comes out of their graduation year. It's just, we've tried other ask amounts to say, hey, maybe the $100 range, $200 range, but really they're just so fresh out of the education, out of their graduation, that's not something they can really think about at that point. So we've had a lot more success saying, join in today. You can get in with your class year, And we're hoping that inviting them into this donor experience, I keep saying that, I tell all my team, I said, you know what we're doing? We want our alums to enjoy this next experience with Gonzaga. They haven't had this donor experience yet, but we know we can provide one for them. So that's what we're trying to do. We want to get them into this because we think they'll really like it when they get there. So that's what we're trying to do with our young alums, is get them there, get them to see what it's like, start to see that stewardship and that acknowledgement process coming out of their first gift, and hope that they want to continue doing that. And on another side, our strategic plan is to really work on building up our top leadership donors, like those top 100. Well, it's going to start from where? The recent grads coming out now, someday we're going to have them hopefully be part of this upper group who are, being the top supporters to the university. So our team is geared toward looking at who's kind of an outlier, who's pinging up. Let's figure out ways to give them some interaction. So personal phone calls, some more visits, keep tabs on them a little bit closer, because we do want to not just leave them out until they're 35, 40 years old, to come back in. So we're trying to set the precedent, like, we've noticed you, you've noticed us, let's work on this together. And so there's little things going on with the young alum population.
Tina, I'd assume you agree with that. Not, here's your hat, what's your hurry, we'll see you when you're 40.
Right.
That does not work, right?
No, it doesn't. Actually, this year we had a special magazine wrap, and at graduation we had, I think it was about 20 of us handing out that issue of the magazine, which was geared strictly towards graduation and what it means to be a Buckeye. And it had a nifty logo on the front, which I, of course, can't remember at the moment. But it was really great. Lots of people took their pictures with it. And so they walked away with something in their hands at graduation about what it means to be a Buckeye. And what our plan is that after that care call, we would then include them in solicitation pieces, but not necessarily with an ask for the first year. So it might be a direct mail in the fall, no ask, an autumn, or holiday card, no ask, and then start, a little bit later with with a full ask. Then 1 year after graduation, they get a piece that says, hey, happy graduation year, you've been out for a year. So just going to try to keep them in the fold, and also just look at what their engagement is with the university. So we look at engagement, they're still involved, they're still doing things, they're still thinking about the university. And as we do that, bring in a giving component to that. We also look at what are our young alumni going to respond to. And are they going to respond to the direct mail pieces we send out? Are they going to respond to the phone calls? Or are they going to respond to a tweet or something like that? So how can we grab that audience and pull them in?
Yeah, no, that definitely, thinking about what they're going to look at. I mean, mail, everyone wants to do mail, but is that really that effective? But then again, email, there's so many emails that they're receiving, and then how do you not get lost? One thing that's on our minds at SU is doing our first ever Giving Day, which we have not done yet. Have Gonzaga and Ohio State done 1 day of giving?
We are planning our first day of giving right now.
Bless you. And how about you, Gonzaga?
Yes, we've done 3 already.
Wow, full head.
Yeah.
So how does the whole concept of donor impact and explaining why it's so important to give on that day, to give together, can you talk a little bit about that and how the Giving Days have come together?
Yeah, okay, so Giving Days, we dipped our toe in it 3 years ago with just honestly an experiment to see how it would go. We didn't have challenge money, we didn't have a fancy website, we just said, let's throw it out there, send a bunch of emails, do some social media, and see what happens. We didn't even have a whole social media plan with our marketing team, and we really just sort of went with it. And we were surprised. I mean, we got the 500 donors we wanted in a day, which is great for Gonzaga. So this is new territory for us. And you know what I found? So then the next year we upped it again. We wanted to get, I think 1,000 donors or something, or 700. And we were able to get close. We got over, got to that 700 mark. So we saw some growth in our one-day donors. Again, not a lot of infrastructure put in here. I mean, it's just our team of a few people doing some social media and doing some videos and using a regular online giving form. And we didn't have a thermometer. Like, we didn't have anything. We just put it out there. And then last year, we're like, okay, let's go a little bigger with this. So we had a challenge gift. We were able to find a donor who, just gets so excited about getting other people excited about giving back. So they offered some match funding to this effort, and we put a big goal out there that said, hey, we'll unlock these gifts as we reach these donor counts. And that was a lot more successful. We had a goal of 1,500 donors. We got about 1,410, so we almost did it, which blew it. I mean, we would have been shocked and awed if it was 1,500, because that was just, it's ridiculous for Gonzaga. I mean, we look at 13,000 donors in a year. We got almost 1,500 in a day. So that was a big deal for us. And the challenge money helped, having a more executed strategy with social media, of course. And then we did have more of a thermometer approach. We used a crowdfunding platform to help us with that. And we got a lot of feedback from the alumni that they loved that. They said, that was so fun. I would check back and see if the numbers go up. So, some of that visual is really important. Apparently, we'll get you. Well,
that's showing the impact, right? That that grows and as that unlocks, like, whoa, like that's impact, right?
Impact, yeah. They're seeing that, and they see that. People are getting involved. In terms of educating about the why to give that day, I think it's all about excitement and energy and just being part of something. Right. I separate that from what you do more as an annual campaign, looking at the whole year of education with that and asking for support. It's about, we didn't provide a litany of options for them to give to. We said, we're raising money to sponsor a ZAG. That's what we would call it, giving a scholarship to a student. So we're going to sponsor ZAGs today. We need 1,500 people to sponsor ZAGs and just go for it. And, you don't see detraction there. We don't need to have 100 choices for them. It's really about, you know what, yeah, I'll step in part of this day. It's not about I'm going to be part of this fund or that fund, right? So that's what I found with the Give Day is you just got to keep it simple and get that energy going. And people give, the scholarships are so important. I think a lot of them, that makes a case for them. If they really wanted to give elsewhere, we would count them in that day. It just wasn't in that big thermometer, and we would throw them in at the, periodically throughout the day. But there was no objections to saying, hey, let's strive to this one goal.
I like that. Tina, does that sound like how your plan is coming together, or things a little different?
We are in the beginning stages, so I love these ideas.
I know.
We are actually working on getting our platform set up. We have talked about how each college will have the opportunity to create their own type of challenge, whether that's a match or some kind of contest in the colleges, or just let them come up with an idea. So it would include like our athletics department. We actually had a meeting with a lot of our staff out in the units yesterday, and just kind of generating some ideas. So with that big meeting, now we get to go out and meet individually with 22 different units to see what's your priority fund in each unit.
Right.
How are we going to do that? And then we have, we're looking at what will our stewardship be afterwards. We've got this really cool plan for something we'll send out to donors after they make a gift that our marketing team is just over the roof about.
Wow, awesome. Little teasers. I can't tell you about the campaign this year. I can't tell you about this what's going on. We'll just have to keep watching.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about our video, but we are taking it a step further and looking at who beyond that one beneficiary did it impact.
Right.
So was it their family? Was it more students? So we're going to just take it a little bit further and keep that mystery there.
Awesome. No, I really like that. I think all of it goes back to the impact piece, or even, on a day of giving when so many alumni are giving, you're that follow-up piece, that stewardship piece, that, even though you're one of 1,500 giving on this day, you're still making a massive difference. The impact of your gift is huge. I think that's so important, even on a day like that. Well, ladies, we're coming up on 1:45, which is the sad end of our episode. Is there anything you think I've missed in terms of talking donor impact, or in the work that you're doing? Any ideas you're thinking about? Speak now or forever hold your peace as we wrap up our show.
I will say, Kim, that our Give Day this year coming up will be in February, and we're actually combining it with our Gonzaga Day, which I don't know if you've talked about this topic at Higher Ed Live, or Advancement Live, but the, those days like Marquette has a Marquette Day, there's Gonzaga Day, Notre Dame Day, so we're combining our Giving Day, or giving, 3 days at this point. We'll do a 3-day hour challenge with the big alumni regional celebration. So stay tuned. I think that's a new thing for us, but I think it will work out really well going forward.
That's awesome. We'll have to book the Advancement Live episode for March on how it went.
That sounds great.
And that's similar. We are combining our Day of Giving with our Buckeye Love campaign. So for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had Buckeye Love as our theme for our winter campaign, and we're going to combine it in February. What date are you doing yours?
It's the 11th.
Ours is the 14th.
And ours is the 23rd, so February is the day.
February for everyone.
So we're planning at that, and we'll combine it with all the messaging with our Buckeye Love. So that's going on already.
Yeah.
So it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll be awake for many hours in a row.
I know, that's when caffeine really becomes your good friend, right? The coffees and the Diet Cokes and things. Well, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your ideas from Connecting the Dots, from Tomorrow Made Possible, and even some great thoughts about giving days and just showing impact there as well. Got some great ideas myself from this episode. Hopefully our viewers did as well. We had a quiet audience on Twitter, but that's okay. We know folks are watching, and as always, you can watch anytime on our website and listen to it in podcast format. And of course, thank you to M. Stoner for sponsoring this episode and so many others. And with that, I will say enjoy the rest of your week, ladies. Stay warm. It's very fall-like here in Syracuse, perhaps the same where you are. And I really appreciate you joining us for this episode of Advancement Live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.